Hey guys, how's it going? So, if you haven't met me in person or anywhere, my name is Jared Tuitel. Um, and I wanted to post these videos about going through a spiritual awakening. Um, yeah, I haven't really posted much about this and revealed this part of myself to a lot of people that I know. So, I think it would be a really good thing to get some of this information out there, and it's also just important information. I mean, really, no matter who you are in your life, it's everything. So, I'm even, you can even ask yourself, like, who's making this video? Who's speaking right now? What's coming through when I'm speaking. There's this human body speaking through a phone and making a video. um, so yeah, that's what it is. um, I'm I'm by some trees right now, just living life. Uh, yeah, I see so many people posting videos about this on YouTube now, and I love hearing all these different perspectives. I think it's a really good thing for people to do. And I'm getting to a point now where I want to start making videos. I've had a couple people, I think I've just commented on people's videos, and they've liked some of the things that I've said, so that made me happy. But I'll be honest, those comments definitely came out of some dark times, but that's really what happens. Is that's when all the great things come, is from that darkness. You can see this soil down here, these beautiful trees that are growing from it, but it doesn't really look like much when it first starts to grow. And if you get your mind all caught up in that, then that's not good. But I'm definitely guilty of that a lot of the time. And you can blame everything in your life that's holding you down, the people, but really it's you. It's all a reflection of you. All the karma that you've held throughout every lifetime that you've lived. It's just you. It doesn't even exist. It feels like it exists when I go out and live my life, but when I'm making this video now, even talking about it, it doesn't feel like it exists anymore. Does this video even exist that I'm making? There's a lot of really cool perspectives out there, because there's a lot of really cool branches on a tree that grow from the soil. It's the same thing. It's just space. But starting with that, really, to me, a spiritual awakening means you're moving out of what you identify with. It was always there, you just didn't know it was there. And it's here right now, whether you see it or not. It's there when I don't see it throughout my day. Underneath it, there's this space where everything comes from. The earth, all the planets with life out there that have not been discovered, all the planets without life. It's still you. There's just what you classify as living or dead. That's not even real either. You were never born. And wow, even saying that triggered my ego right there. You were never born. So if you were never born, how can you really die? What dies when you said that you die? And there you hear wind. You could consider that a lifetime. That was the birth. The wind is blowing. I don't know if it can even be heard on this video, but when you hear wind, and then once that wind stops, that's the death. And that's like what a lifetime is. It's the same thing. It's just a different form of you. But I guess what I mean to come to is that awakening, you're really waking up to that. You're waking up to that we're all one. You start to realize that. You start to realize you're not what you thought you were. And the things that you've learned in school, a lot of it isn't really, it's not the truth. Maybe on one level it's true, because some level has created it to be that way. But a lot of that stuff isn't working anymore. And if you were to go out into the world and apply that stuff, you'd be disappointed. And more and more people, I think, are going to be realizing that as that goes. But I've always found that you can bring space to anything, no matter how hard it is, and that's like what I have a lot of challenging moments of bringing just what I'm doing right now into those places. But that's really what it's about. That's why a lot of what our so-called light workers are here to do. But really, everything is a light worker. Everything is light. There's just things that don't know it yet, but it's really you that doesn't know. It's not the people. The people are you. And the reason why we're here is because a part of us doesn't know. It's like we're cleaning a dirty closet. And yeah, I won't lie, I've lived lifetimes on Earth and lifetimes on other planets before. The idea that we don't know that there's life on another planet never made sense to me in school. I always knew that there was life on another planet. It wasn't a mystery to me. I now probably know more why, but back then I didn't know why, I just knew. But it's all here. It's just here. This is it. Really, when you go through that awakening, we all have a story to tell. So I can tell you my story. Well, this is my story, at least in the lifetime that I've lived on Earth. So like any child, I was born, and I'm living my life. I was living my life as everybody else was. One with the crowd and everything, because that's what you do when you're a kid. That's what you do even throughout high school. And maybe later on when you awaken, you'll figure other things out, but the point is that really, I think my awakening, there's no start or end to it, but in the story that I'm trying to tell, when I was in my ego in high school, where I think a lot of that started was, how do I phrase it? I've always been a musician, and I think playing music, I had a phase where I started smoking pot. I don't even consider that to be the truth at all, but sometimes an altered state can bring you to that realization, but it is not necessarily to do anything to realize this at all. Never done any psychedelics or anything like that. You don't need to. You could. It works sometimes, but everyone has their own path, and you got to do what you got to do. Point is I started using that, and looking back on it, that's what I needed to do at that time, and I think what woke me up to it was I was kind of doing something that was scolded upon by society, and at that point I was very identified with what I thought was my societal self, or what I thought was my true self, but it wasn't. Even just talking about it, I get a different vibe, and I'm sure if you're watching this, you'd feel the same too. But doing that, it just brought a lot of guilt up and stuff like that, and all these other wounds, and it really, I've had anxiety throughout my life. It's inherited in my family, and that's something I picked up while I've been here. And I did it for a couple of years, just enjoying myself. Never an everyday person, but I did it as a hobby. Just like I'd do anything else, play video games or play music. And I like playing music, listening to music, doing it. And then I got to a point where I think I had stopped. I started getting anxious on it. It didn't feel right for me to do it anymore. So I stopped doing that. And then I went to Berklee College of Music after high school. I went there, and at the end of high school, kind of when I was starting to find other alternatives to get to that state that I felt when I was high, because I think that's really what I liked, was what it showed me. But as Terrence McKenna says, once you get the message, you got to hang up the phone. And I didn't know that saying then, but that's what I was doing. And I started meditating. I started really getting into meditation. I just liked it. I liked to be able to sit and do nothing. And then when I went to Berklee, I was pursuing that, and actually stumbled upon a mentor who I still sit with regularly. I have periods off where I definitely need a break, and I have to go maybe back more into my ego and do that stuff physically and process all that stuff, and purge and do that type of thing. But I started sitting with him and just asking him all these questions. I had read about like astral projection and stuff like that, and what he told me is just like, who's asking that question? Do you know who you are? And I was like, holy shit. That's it. And that's what he showed me. All the time I sat with him. The realization. And I got to a point where it got kind of dark at Berklee, because I think what I started to realize too, when I went to Berklee, I wanted to be a musician. And being there, I realized that I'm actually here to help musicians. That's what I came here for. I was a musician in another lifetime. I already completed that journey, in a sense. Yeah, that's another form, though. I'll have other videos where I talk about that and get more in depth about that. But basically, I had a band I was in, and yeah, that worked for a while, and then I left. I went to Spain. I fell in love. It's all experience. It's beautiful. And the challenge is you don't want to judge that experience as good or bad. But that's a bit of what my story is. But it's just a story. That's not who I am. It's not who any of us are. So really, the real question is there a spiritual awakening?